Ladies and gentlemen, would you please take your seats so we can start our program? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Menno Ratzker, and I'm proud to be the chair of the National Board of the American Committee of Shaare Zedek, as well as chair of the International Board of Governors. I've been associated with this hospital for about 50 years. I know I don't look that old. My wife, Helen, and I flew in a special yesterday afternoon to be at this event. It is a very special privilege to wish Mazel Tov, congratulations to Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa for being tonight's guest of honor. And thank him publicly for his friendship and support of the Los Angeles Jewish community, the State of Israel, and the Shaare Zedek Medical Center in Jerusalem. Perhaps one day in the future, we will also have a president of the United States of Hispanic origin. This reminds me of the story of the first Jewish president of the United States, who calls his mother in Florida and says that on January 20th, I'm going to be inaugurated as the first Jewish president of the United States, and I'd like you to be there. And his mother says, Washington in January? It's cold and it's rainy and snowy. I'll send a jet to pick you up. You'll sit next to the future Secretary of State. And so she is sitting there in front of the Capitol, next to the future Secretary of State. And as her son is being sworn in, she leans over and says, you see that man being sworn in as President of the United States? His brother's a doctor. We have a terrific and inspiring program this evening, and I want to thank the honorary chairs, especially my countrymen, Gitta and Jack Nagel, and all of you and our supporters and friends. On behalf of all of us, I wish a refuah shalema to Marvin Markowitz, one of our chairs. We wish him a speedy and full recovery. It is also a great pleasure for me to be here to witness the inaugural Next Generation Award being presented to my longtime friend, Stephen Matloff, the son of the famous Martha and Dr. Jack Matloff. Shaare Zedek and the Matloff name are practically synonymous, and watching Stephen step into his father's shoes bodes very well for our future. I can still remember Stephen visiting the hospital as a child. I wish Jack a refuah shalema and send Martha our love and best wishes. It is now my pleasure to call upon David Suissa, who will be our MC for the evening. 10 years ago, David sold his thriving advertising agency so that he could devote himself full-time to helping the Jewish people. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage a great leader of our community, a great friend of Israel, a true mensch, and someone we all enjoy reading every week in the Jewish Journal, the president of Tribe Media, Mr. David Suissa.
Paul Jesser told me that my key assignment tonight is to get you all out of here before midnight. It's been a very difficult summer. Call it the oh my God summer. I've rarely seen such an intensity in our community. There's been a level of pain and anxiety and confusion because of our brothers and sisters in Israel, and we felt that pain here. I was in Israel twice this summer, and when you're in that state of fragility and fear, you need things to hold on to. We discovered new levels of evil this summer that have spooked many of us. It might have united the Jews of Israel, but it spooked us. And when we feel so concerned for Israel with the same concern we would have for a child, we look for things to hang on to. And one of those things we can hang on to is friendship. And we have tonight one of the great friends of the Jewish people and of Israel. Antonio Villaraigosa. Antonio, I can't overstate what your support has meant to us. When you wrote in the LA Times that supporting Israel was not just in America's interest, was not just a good strategic decision. You said real powerful words, which is supporting Israel is the decent thing to do. And I want to thank you for those words. And as you might have heard, it's not like we're overdosing on friends around the world. So we appreciate your support, and we pray, and we're blessed to honor you tonight, and we bless you that you will have many, many years of success. We're going to start our program by honoring the two great countries of the world. The first one is America, and the second one is Israel, by the Cantor of Sinai, who's unbelievable. I'm a big fan of his, Marcus Feldman, as well as the choir director, Ariel Cohen. We'll start with the National Anthem of America and then the National Anthem of Israel. "15 years ago, I got a phone call from our next speaker. I had my ad agency at the time, and he called me. He said, at the time, it seems like there was a bomb falling in Jerusalem every week. And he called me and said, Suissa, we got to get a group and we got to go to Israel right now. A few days later, there was 100 people going to Israel, filling up the empty hotels. When people say you don't need an introduction, this is who we're referring to. So he was named the most influential rabbi in America by Newsweek magazine and one of the 50 most influential Jews in the world by the Jerusalem Post. But he's also a dear personal friend, which means I have a lot of stories. Most of them I won't share with you, but I will tell you that what stands out the most in my mind about Rabbi David Wolpe is he's fearless. In Los Angeles, for the past 20 years that I've known him, anytime there's something really difficult to do, you go to Rabbi Wolpe. When there are difficult issues, when there are controversial issues, when there are sensitive issues, when you have to weigh in on those topics that nobody wants to weigh in on, David Wolpe enters fearlessly. And we've been the beneficiary of that. He's one of those few writers at the Jewish Journal that we can call him and we know he's going to deliver. On time and insightful. And he used to be just a treasure in Los Angeles of our community, and he's become really a treasure of the global Jewish community. It's a great honor, David, that I'm your friend. He's also someone that I email at midnight when I'm not sure whether I should write a column. And then I don't know, maybe he just never sleeps, but he emails me right back. It says, Suissa, I don't think you want to write this. He's a close personal friend, and he's a shining light in our community, Rabbi David Wolpe.
First of all, I want to thank David Suissa for not telling any of the stories that he didn't tell. And to say that I was trying to figure out how to tie together all the disparate threads of this evening's event. First of all, of course, Israel and Shaare Zedek and the mayor and all of you. And I realized that the best way to start was to take the cue from the word Zedek, which, as you know, means righteousness and is associated with one figure in the Bible by the rabbis. Joseph is called Yosef HaTzadik, Joseph the righteous one. If you recall, after Joseph is sold by his brothers, because he's told them about his dreams and they resent him, I don't know why, his dreams were that they would all bow down to him. So they didn't like that, his brothers. They sell him into slavery and he ends up in a pit and then in jail. And in jail, he interprets the dreams of the cupbearer and the baker. And by interpreting the dreams of the cupbearer and the baker, he becomes second only to Pharaoh in Egypt. And the question that one of the rabbis asks is, if dreams got him in trouble in the first place, how is it that dreams got him out of trouble in the second place? And the answer is about tonight. Because the answer is that he got out of trouble when he learned how to listen to other people's dreams. And that's part of the key. One of the things that Israel has done is it has listened to the dreams of Jews all over the world. It created a state that embodied those dreams, not just the dreams of the first Aliyah or the second Aliyah, but the dreams of Jews in improbable places like Ethiopia or Beverly Hills. Wherever Jews were, Israel managed to listen to their dreams. At Shaare Zedek, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're sick, if you're in trouble, if you're hurt, if you're wounded, they will listen to your dreams and make them come true. I know in my own experience with our mayor, not only did he do the exact same thing when I was sick with cancer, he listened to me and to my dreams, but I remember long after, a week or two after one Yom Kippur, somebody said to me, you know, the mayor was here. I said, what do you mean the mayor was here? He said, yeah, he sat in the back and just listened to the service for a couple hours and then he left. And I thought, who comes to a Yom Kippur service as the elected mayor of the city and doesn't let anyone know, and doesn't ask to speak, and doesn't ask to appear, just comes to listen to people's dreams? That's what ties all of this together. The Nagels have made people's dreams come true, as have all of you, with your philanthropy, with your giving, with your goodness, and that's why we're here. After all, that's what Israel was long before it was a modern state. It was a wild, improbable dream. But all of us made it come true. It is Rosh Hashanah in just a week and a half. But even so, I want to tell you a Hanukkah story. Because the Hanukkah story fits in a way that I can't resist, and I'll save my Rosh Hashanah stories for Rosh Hashanah. Years ago, my father told me the story of his rabbinic colleague in Britain, Hugo Gryn. Hugo Gryn was a child in Auschwitz, and he was in the camp with his father. And Hanukkah came around. And his father took the margarine ration that they were supposed to use to eat, and instead he used it to light the Chanukiah, to light the candle. And his son said to him, "What's wrong with you? How can you do that? Don't you know that this is our food?" And his father told him something that Gryn said he never forgot for the rest of his life. He said, "My child, what we have learned in the camp is you can go for 3 weeks without water. You can go for 3 days without food, but you can't go for 3 minutes without hope." That's what sustained Israel in the most difficult times. It was, in fact, the hope that things would get better. There is, as David said, enough despair in the Jewish world. But there's more hope than there is despair. There are lots of people of goodwill all over the world who recognize goodness when they see it and evil when they see it, who actually believe and support dreams. So I want to close to make up for the Hanukkah story by telling you one thing about Rosh Hashanah. Seems only fair. And that is why Rosh Hashanah comes before Yom Kippur. Maybe you never thought about this, but really Yom Kippur should come first. Because if you think about it, Rosh Hashanah is the beginning of the year. You begin the new year, and you're not a week into it, and already you're repenting for every bad thing you've done. Which, apart from those of us who are prodigies at doing bad things, seems a little early in the year. But the answer is this: Rosh Hashanah celebrates creation. And it isn't until you realize how beautiful the world is that you really feel a sense of regret for what you've done to make it less beautiful than it could be. Rosh Hashanah is the time when we appreciate the gifts we are given, and that allows us to do repentance. So appreciate the gifts you're given, but also, you're allowed to take a minute to appreciate the gifts that you give. Not only did we create a remarkable state, but in it, astonishing institutions, Shaare Zedek very prominent among them, where people are helped and healed and able anew to celebrate the world. So for everything that all of you do, God bless you.
I have to follow that. I will say one thing on Rosh Hashanah, because Rabbi Wolpe inspired me. My sister said something to me last week in Montreal, and she said that she has 52 Rosh Hashanahs a year. That for her, Rosh Hashanah reminds her how important Shabbat is. That Rosh Hashanah comes to remind her about Shabbat. So the exact process that she goes through on Rosh Hashanah, and the sense of renewing ourselves, and the sense of gratitude and reflecting on the past year, she said that's exactly what she tries to do every week. So I just thought I should share that with you. Our next speaker. I'm sorry? Okay, good. There's a video. Please watch the video.
As you honor our very close friend, Antonio Villaraigosa. I would like to speak directly to my friend Antonio this evening. Antonio, we have known each other for many, many years, and I consider you a close friend and someone for whom I have much respect. What you have done for this city, all the good that we are enjoying today, is nothing short of remarkable. In addition to that, your support for the State of Israel is absolutely second to none. I read with great interest your op-ed piece written just a few weeks ago upon your return from your 4th visit to Israel. You ended up by writing, supporting Israel is in the national interest of the United States, and it is also the only decent thing to do. I couldn't say it better myself. And you're not even Jewish, but you're a Zionist, which comes to prove that to be a Zionist, you don't need to be Jewish. So Antonio, please accept my personal appreciation and respect for all you have done and will continue to do. Shaare and I are very impressed with the work and progress that Shaare Zedek Medical Center in Jerusalem has done so far. When Shaare and I first supported Shaare Zedek, I would say more than 20 years ago, this was a hospital of 400 beds. It now has 1,000 beds. And most impressive, in 1993, there were 5,000 babies delivered. And last year, over 20,000 deliveries. I want to thank Shaare Zedek's American Committee and all of you in attendance for this evening as you show respect towards my friend Antonio and for your support of this wonderful and important medical center. Thank you and enjoy your evening.
We didn't coordinate that line on the decent thing to do. It's such a great line that it moves many of us. You know, if they ever had a tour of famous Jews in LA, this gentleman should be right on the top of the list. If you ever go to his office, it's, how do I explain it? It's like a Jewish museum. First of all, there are hundreds of pictures in his office, and there's a procession of people that keep coming in. Could be a Hasidic rabbi, a Reform rabbi, could be a hippie, nonstop. Stanley Black is not just an institution in this city. He's a mensch and a half, and you really only feel it when you go to his office and you see him in action. How is it possible for a human being never to say no? How is it possible? And every time I've been to his office, it's the same thing. It's an ongoing procession of people who need help and people who have dreams, as Rabbi Wolpe said. But above everything, there's something about Stanley that really moves me the most. Because in LA, people like to say, let's have lunch or let's do lunch. But Stanley has taken that to another level. You can never get away by just saying, let's do lunch. Because with Stanley, immediately he's going to say, where? When are we going to do lunch? Where? When are we going to do lunch? Which day? Tuesday, 12 o'clock. Every time he nails you for a date. It's not the Hollywood let's do lunch, it's the Stanley Black let's do lunch. He's got these weekly rituals in different delis and different restaurants. And he's always, I met him the first time 15 years ago. Within 5 minutes, I told him I was going to Amsterdam. He connected me with an artist in Amsterdam. He's a guy who loves life. He's been involved with so many causes. Obviously, Ort, where my father taught in Morocco 50 years ago. And here I am 50 years later talking to Stanley about this global organization. He's a real treasure in our community. We love him. He's the man that can't say no to Jewish dreams. Stanley Black, where are you?
David, I want to thank you. When do you want to have lunch? Tomorrow. And Mayor, good seeing you here tonight. Last night I was with the governor, but you're just as important as the governor. So thank you. I was born in Los Angeles. I lived there all my life. I have no family in Israel, but when I was a young boy, about 15 years old, my father went to Israel in 1948 and met a lot of the Jews out of the concentration coming to Israel. And after, when he came home, he said, I want you to really support Israel and help them as much as you can. And all my life since then, I have been supporting Israel, helping Shaare Zedek. I'm just finishing an underground operating room that they're building right now, and it's almost through, and it's almost paid for. So I wanted to thank them for asking me tonight to introduce David Siegel, the Consul General of Israel. I'm introducing David, who has been the Consul General of Israel in Los Angeles since August 2011. Consul General Siegel is the senior representative of the State of Israel to the southwestern United States. Prior to assuming his current position, Mr. Siegel served as Chief of Staff to Israel's Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs. In this role, he was involved in policy formation and decision-making at the senior levels of Israel's foreign policy establishment. Mr. Siegel served 2 terms at the Embassy of Israel in Washington, D.C., in successive roles of Chief of Staff to 3 of Israel's ambassadors to the United States, Consular for Congressional Affairs, and spokesperson. In these capacities, which spawned nearly a decade and 2 administrations, Mr. Siegel was deeply involved in policy coordination with the State Department, the National Security Council, and the White House. David Siegel was Israel's voice to the Washington Press Corps and liaison to the United States Congress, where he was responsible for security cooperation, missile defense, and homeland security. During these years, Mr. Siegel participated in the 1998 Wild River Peace Summit, the 1999 Israel-Syria negotiation, and the Camp David Middle East Peace Summit in the fall of 2000. I am pleased to have the privilege of introducing David Siegel, who has been a friend of mine since he's been here in Los Angeles, who has been the Consul General of Israel in Los Angeles since August 2011. Consul General Siegel is the senior representative of the State of Israel to the southwestern United States. Prior to assuming his current position, Mr. Siegel has served as Chief of Staff to Israel Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs. In this role, he was involved in policy formation and decision-making at the senior levels of Israel's foreign policy establishment. Mr. Siegel served 2 terms at the Embassy of Israel in Washington, D.C. in successive roles of Chiefs of Staff to 3 of Israel ambassadors to the United States Consul for Congressional Affairs. It gives me a pleasure now, David Siegel, I want to introduce you. And David, it's a pleasure that I know you for a long time, and keep the good word. I want to see one of the big shots in Israel one day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it is an honor to be introduced by Stanley Black. Thank you very much. I just want to say this is such a special event for all of us, and the people sitting in this room. It is just so moving to see all of you together in support of such an important cause for Israel, but for also my family personally. This synagogue, Sinai, is where my 3 kids went to school until this year. They're now spread out. But my daughter graduated on this bima. My middle son went to this school. He was born in Shaare Zedek. He's the first Sabra in both my family going back, I don't know how many hundreds of years, and in my wife's family going back. So we have our one Sabra who came to us through Shaare Zedek. So it's very special for me to be here and to talk to you about the hospital and about our wonderful friend, forever Mayor Villaraigosa, great, great friend of Israel. Let me start with the hospital. The images in I'll give you 3 images that are powerful for me. One, of course, was the birth of our son Eli at the hospital. The second are the images of the second intifada, of the suicide bombings. We would literally get up in the morning in the year 2001, 2002. I would go to the foreign ministry in Jerusalem. My wife would go downtown to the American Jewish Committee offices by the Shuk, by Machane Yehuda. And just about every morning we would hear an enormous explosion in the city. Then we would see the special forces on their motorcycles racing to the scene, and then the ambulances. It was all going to Shaare Zedek. We need to understand that this is Jerusalem's main hospital. This is a place where miracles are done. You've heard a little bit about it. The third image in my head is the image of Dr. Ofer Marin, the deputy director of the hospital, who's an incredible friend of this community as well. And the stories of flying him up to the Golan Heights, to a secret field hospital where Dr. Ofer Marin would leave the patients in Jerusalem in order to take care of refugees coming in from Syria into the Golan Heights, where people were cared for, again, by Israeli medical professionals coming from Shaare Zedek. All of this, I hope, underscores the importance of what you're here to support. A hospital, you've heard, where 21,000 babies are born a year, more than anywhere else in the free world. This is an indication also of where Israel is going, the optimism of our people. We make lots of babies in Israel. That's a wonderful thing to support, again, through this hospital that now is planning a whole new children's hospital in Jerusalem for the children of Jerusalem and the children of the region. So for all those reasons, it's very, very important that we're all here to support this, and it's important for me and for my family personally, for all the reasons I've described. Mayor Villaraigosa, I've been here only 3 years. Sometimes it feels like more, sometimes it feels like less, but you've been here with us every day of the week. That's what it feels like. You've been here at the most difficult times, both before I was here, I heard it from my predecessors before I came, but during my time here, unfortunately, we had 2 conflicts in Gaza during my tenure over these 3 years. And it's not just that Mayor Villaraigosa came out publicly in statements that were so bold and so clear in their moral force and clarity. You used to call us before we called you. And I'm used to, I don't know if you get calls from the mayor, but I do every once in a while. And it's always, with a no-caller ID. And he never introduces himself. It's, so how are things today? What is happening? Always wants to know what's happening and wants to act on it. So you're a tremendous friend, and we all know it, but I just want you to know how personally we feel it. You've been there with us through thick and thin. You're there to celebrate with us when we're celebrating Israel's Independence Day or other events. You were there this summer. He was the first that came to join us in the vigils for the 3 kidnapped kids, Gilad, Naphtali, and Eyal. You were there to console us, to console the community, to console the families and their relatives that were here. So for all those reasons, you're a tremendous friend of the State of Israel. You were there as an assembly member, as a president of the assembly, as mayor, and who knows where you go from here. You're with us, we support you, we love you, and thank you for what you do. The State of Israel needs friends like you. We need your moral clarity. Look around Israel today. Realize that we are in a storm is an understatement. An historic storm is an understatement. It is almost like the trapdoors of history are opening, and all the demons of the Middle East are coming right up. The Shiites and the Sunnis and the hatreds and the killings. And you look at the sea of chaos around Israel today. Everywhere from Libya and North Africa, going all the way out on a huge arc of humanity of 300 million people, all the way out to Afghanistan and back. And today it's ISIS, and yesterday it was Hamas, and the day before that it was Hezbollah. And who knows who it will be tomorrow. And we realize that Israel is that miracle, that island of stability and strength and love for America and love for freedom and love for our tradition. A country that is in the eye of the storm, but we hope and pray that that eye will remain quiet and that the storm will have to swirl around us for many, many years to come. And every once in a while, it touches us and harms us in a very significant way, as we saw this summer. It might harm us even more in the future, because there are enemies out there that are 10 times stronger, if not 100 times stronger than Hamas. Hamas had 10,000 rockets. Hezbollah has 100,000 rockets that can cover all of Israel. It goes back to why we need our hospitals, why we need our centers of scientific and medical excellence, to make sure that this island remains strong, Israel remains strong, that we protect ourselves, that we protect our people around the world. And as Rabbi Wolpe said, we've done all of this together with you, and we'll continue doing it together with you. And our hearts are filled with love and appreciation for what you do for Israel every day of the week. And even though Los Angeles is so physically far away from Israel, you're so very close in your hearts, and we're so very close to you in ours. So for those reasons, we're all happy to be here tonight, happy to support Shaare Zedek, happy that we're strong as a community, standing together, understanding that the times are very difficult, very dramatic, very trying, but we will overcome as a united people, a united community, both the United States and the State of Israel. Thank you very much.
You know, if you're a Holocaust survivor, you have a natural connection to the Jewish people. If you're someone whose grandfather helped build Israel, you have a natural connection. But there are so many, there are thousands, if not millions of Jews in America who will enter their 20s and their 30s and be very successful and do very well, but will not naturally gravitate to their people. Tonight, I'm going to introduce someone who's gone in that direction. Someone who entered his 20s and 30s, became very successful, and decided that he was going to run towards his people. He started a foundation and got involved with so many causes that I don't think I've been to an event and I haven't seen him. He's got an incredible car. I think one of the reasons he's very popular with women is because he flies them to Santa Barbara on his private jet. Where is he? Barak Raviv, where are you? Barak, come on up and say a few words.
Of all the things you could have said, I sent you a 10-page bio and you talk about the plane. First of all, I want to wish everybody an early Shana Tova, and thank you for being here. It's a real opportunity to be able to honor the Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa, and to have everybody's presence, Consul General David Siegel, and for all the supporters that are here with us. I've been asked to introduce a very special friend of Shaare Zedek Medical Center, somebody who's walked a path that I admire very much, and somebody who's much closer in age than I am, and has also visited the hospital many more times than I have. The Matloff family and Shaare Zedek have been partners for over 30 years. Paul Jesser, our regional director, explains it this way. He says that 75% of all the gifts that have been given to Shaare Zedek from our area throughout the years are the result of the love, respect, and appreciation that people have directly for Dr. Jack Matloff. So the question is, what happens after Jack and his generation no longer play the important roles that they played for decades? And the obvious answer is that the next generation has to take over where the parents left off. And I think that our entire community, but specifically the Shaare Zedek community, is very fortunate to be blessed with somebody from the next generation who's going to be stepping into those shoes. And I'll tell you a little bit about Stephen. Steve Matloff has become a true leader in his time, not only for Shaare Zedek, but also for his involvement with Wilshire Boulevard Temple. He's influencing others to care, to do, and to give. He does this by setting an example in each of these areas. He's played an integral role in the development of our intellectual salon outreach programs, which introduced Shaare Zedek to over 800 new young professionals who have had no prior affiliation with the hospital. So before I continue, first let's give Stephen Matloff a round of applause. Stephen, I was reading a little bit about your bio and your experience with Shaare Zedek, and right around the time of Israel's first Lebanon war, I was a kid in Israel, and I know that I've learned since that you were also in Israel right around the time. When he was 8 years old, Stephen was in Israel, and it was his first visit to Shaare Zedek. He's been back to the hospital and to Israel 7 more times, which is probably more than anybody else in this room. In a visit not long ago, he and the other generations of his family, 3 generations in fact, were at Shaare Zedek to break ground for the new Matloff family underground hospital. Stephen's parents, Jack and Martha, along with his beautiful wife Susan and their 3 young children, were there to dedicate the new hospital. Stephen and his family are certainly admirable role models, and it's a privilege for me to be able to introduce him. I'd like to ask him on behalf of Shaare Zedek Medical Center to please come up and accept this award. Stephen, on behalf of the American Committee for Shaare Zedek Medical Center in Jerusalem, it is with great pleasure that I present you with this beautiful piece of art drawn by Mordechai Rosenstein as the recipient of the inaugural Shaare Zedek Next Generation Award. And it reads in Hebrew, Haim, Bracha, Veshalom, which means life, blessing, and peace. Stephen, thank you for everything that you do.
Barak, thank you very much. I appreciate the introduction. Mayor, Consul General, Mom, friends, it is an absolute pleasure to be with all of you here tonight. I am very, very proud to be receiving Shaare Zedek's inaugural NexGen Award. I was thinking how I could describe my relationship with Shaare Zedek, and I decided to use a baseball metaphor since it's mid-September and the Dodgers are doing well. I hope you all are comfortable with this. So I've been involved with the Shaare Zedek ball club for a long time already. I started with this team as a young bat boy back in the early 80s when I had the opportunity to visit the ballpark and watch games from the dugout as my father, Dr. Jack Matloff, who we heard about, took the field with some of the greatest ball players in medicine and some of the greatest ball players in Jewish philanthropy, some of whom are still taking the field every single day, and others who've had their numbers rightfully retired and have been inducted into the Shaare Zedek Hall of Fame. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank 4 sets of people who've made my engagement with Shaare Zedek over the last 33 years both possible and extremely enjoyable. First, we are very, very fortunate to have Shaare Zedek's Director General, Dr. Yonatan Halevi, who we will hear from very shortly, with us this evening. Yonatan, thank you. Thank everyone on the ground at Shaare Zedek for building and running an institution that is so easy to love and with which being affiliated is such a deep honor. Shaare Zedek's accomplishments are truly remarkable. And somehow, just when it seems that they can't get any more impressive, they become more impressive every single time. Second, behind the Shaare Zedek team is an equally dedicated American committee team that works tirelessly to help pay the bills, so that when a switch at the hospital is flipped on, the lights, the monitors, the scanners, everything actually turns on. There are so many individuals who make it a pleasure to contribute time, talent, and treasure to Shaare Zedek and to all of its efforts, but I'll name only 4 who represent the extraordinary work of dozens of people beyond them. So Menno, we've heard from, is our highest lay leader. Rachel Wolpe, who we will hear from, is our highest professional leader as the COO. of the American Committee. Thank you and the entire lay and professional leadership at headquarters. I appreciate it. I've known you both a long time, and I appreciate everything. Paul Jesser is the American Committee's Western Director. Thank you for continuing to build and support a vibrant Shaare Zedek family out here in Los Angeles through countless efforts, including spearheading tonight's event. And Jennifer Weinstein, thank you for being, in the baseball metaphor, the Southern Californian scout, for identifying and engaging and directing new young talent. You've done an outstanding job. And this brings me to the third set of people I'd like to thank. So I'm standing up here tonight as the inaugural NexGen Award recipient because it is really hard for a latter 30s or early 40s year old to have a 33-year track record with any organization. But because of Jennifer Weinstein's efforts, our bench here in Southern California of extremely solid, capable young ball players is very, very deep. Barak, Raviv, who we just heard from, Eli Barron, Jason Serlin, Lamore Shalom, and of course Sam Yebri. Each of you already has given so much to Shaare Zedek. I've really enjoyed our time together, including on some adventures in Jerusalem with a couple of you. And while I know that many others in our demographic will join our team down the road and are joining regularly, you have become the core and the heart of our efforts. And I very much look forward to the many opportunities that I know that I will have in the future to celebrate all of your contributions to Shaare Zedek. So thank you all. And last, I want to thank those who are implied in this award's name. So I currently am a NexGen, which by definition means that there were prev-gens, I guess you would call them, previous generations. We are just the next generation of a very long line of generations, over 112 years worth, who have understood the importance of Shaare Zedek to Jerusalem, to Israel, and to health and humanity worldwide. Thousands have come before us who have loved and supported Shaare Zedek for its extraordinary work. Those generations are the ones who built our gates of righteousness. They are the ones who maintain them. They are the ones who improve them, so that today our hospital serves as an example to the world for how medical care can and should be delivered from before birth to death and at every single stage in between. So in my baseball metaphor, they clearly are the Hall of Famers. We are just lucky stewards of an extraordinary legacy, and we are able to look out on the possibilities of this already very finely tuned machine only because of the tireless commitment and passion of many who came before us. And while I want to thank all of the prev-gens, as I'll call them, for creating something so worth loving, I especially want to thank a doctor and his wife from Los Angeles with the last name Matloff, who cared and continue to care so much about this special place and who introduced me to it all. So thank you for this recognition, but in reality, I am among the lucky ones who have the opportunity to be a proud and productive member of the Shaare Zedek family for at least another 33 years, and that is really special. Thank you.
For more than a century, Shaare Zedek Medical Center has been known as the hospital with a heart. Every day, thousands of patients walk through our doors, seeking the highest levels of medical care in a compassionate and nurturing environment. But let me show you some of the statistics we are most proud of.
Zedek is the only major medical center built, located in the center of the city. And this facility is active 24 hours a day. They are always on call and save lives in the city of Jerusalem.
Inside Jerusalem, there are 3 hospitals, but Shaare Zedek has almost a steady increase in the number of patients of about 7 to 8% per year, which is a very large increase on a steady basis for at least the last 10 years.
We have fantastic consultants in every specialty, and I think people feel the warmth of the staff, the honest, sincere caring that the staff has. And I think that's why they choose us over the other medical institutions in the city, is because they feel that we honestly care. That's why they call us the hospital with the heart.
As Jerusalem's most centrally located hospital, Shaare Zedek needs to be ready at every moment for any eventuality. In fact, during the Intifada, Shaare Zedek received more than 40% of those injured in terrorist attacks. This experience was the impetus for the hospital establishing serious protocols for dealing with such events and for creating our fully functioning Matloff underground hospital. Each year, the hospital coordinates emergency drills together with the IDF to test their skills at identifying how to deal with mass casualty events.
Despite all the differences that we have between us outside, when we come to work in the morning and as we come through the doors of Shaare Zedek, all of these differences seem to disappear.
Caring for patients with cancer is much more than just giving chemotherapy. The chemotherapy is the easy part. The difficult and challenging parts are the communication with people, for them to understand what's wrong with them, to understand that there are things which we can do to help them, but helping them is not just a question of shrinking down their tumour, it's understanding the whole person and the dynamic of their family. And we insist that we must speak with people in their own language.
In Shaare Zedek Hospital, coexistence is not a dream. It's a normal reality.
As many of you know, our expertise extends beyond the walls of the hospital as well. Led by Deputy Director General Dr. Ofer Marin, Shaare Zedek representatives led the IDF Field Hospital in Haiti, Japan, and the Philippines, bringing healing to thousands in desperate need of medical aid. CBS referred to the Israel Field Hospital as the Rolls-Royce of emergency medicine. We are so proud of Shaare Zedek's involvement in saving lives around the world.
I do believe that care of children is not only medical attention, but also love. We are very lucky as pediatricians. Simply the smile that we can get between his tears, that contact makes our day. A little smile of a child, I don't know, this is a light in my life.
From the most advanced procedures in laparoscopic surgery to the latest technology in robotics, from the treating of victims of terror and IDF soldiers to expectant mothers requiring advanced prenatal care, we provide a full range of services at the highest level to every patient who walks through our doors. Join us as we bring innovative medicine to the heart of Jerusalem.
When she was 11 years old, Gitta Nagel, with her mother, Esther, and her brother, Nathan, were smuggled from Poland into Slovakia by a Christian forester. Up until 1939, she led a really great life. She had a businessman father, and things were good in their little village in Poland until the Nazis invaded in 1939. When they got smuggled to Slovakia, for several years, they barely eluded capture. Till finally, when she was 14 years old, on the day of her birthday, the Nazis finally caught up to her, and she was taken to Auschwitz, and then to other concentration camps, until finally in the spring of 1945, right at the end, when there was the possibility of hope, of freedom, she was put with other Jews in a cattle car for 2 weeks. with no food, no water, and no sanitation. That is 14 consecutive Yom Kippur. After the end of those 2 weeks, barely anybody survived. She was so weak. She was 57 pounds. She was so weak that she didn't have the energy to write on that piece of paper that said that you're alive. So tonight I want to look at Gitta Nagel and tell you that you represent the strength of the Jewish people. You represent the strongest statement that the Jewish people can ever make, which is that no matter how far down we go, we'll always get up. And that statement is the strongest, and we're honored to be able to have you with us tonight. To think that after that moment in the cattle car, when you were 57 pounds and barely made it alive, that 69 years later, you would sit at Sinai Temple in this great country of America and know that your name is all over the city, in all the schools, in all the great Jewish institutions, with your beautiful husband, Jack. And by the way, I have stories about Jack and Gitta. I've actually asked him a lot of questions one night. He remembers what she wore the day he met her. He remembers exactly where he took her. This is a great love story. But there's also the love story that we have for you, and the love story that you've had for the Jewish people for the past 69 years. And to think that now you're able to spread your love and to spread your warmth and your generosity all over the community is something that's very meaningful to us. I will also announce that Gitta and Jack have made a major gift to name the Nagel Family Implant Pavilion in the Wills Children's Hospital, the 7th floor in the new Next Generation building. And we look forward to the dedication of this important project early in 2015. We want to thank you for being who you are, and we want to ask you to please come to the stage, the Eshet Chayil of our community, Gitta Nagel.
Thank you so much, David Suissa, for your kind words. I must ad-lib something and confess something very important right here. It's not in my script. I have often been confused by Joan Rivers, who just passed away a few weeks ago. I adored her, I loved her, I knew her very well. And today, you made a little mistake. You were talking a beautiful story, but not about the new Gitta Nagel. I was Gitta Ehrenfreund. The real Gitta Nagel sits over there. She's my husband's sister. She is the one who survived the hell of Auschwitz. I have my own story, quite different, because I come from the city of Anne Frank, but I survived. And Gloria, all this tribute was for you. Honorable Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa, esteemed David Wolpe, Honorable Consul General David Siegel, and Next Generation awardee Stephen Matloff. I'm very honored that I have gone, I don't know, you say your dad has been 7 times in Israel. I must have been at least with 6 of them. And I remember when we dedicated the building in 1987, when you were that little boy. My co-chairman, from whom you heard this evening, Haim Saban on the screen, and Mr. Sheldon Adelson and Dr. Miriam Adelson. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And a warm welcome to my landsman, Menno Ratzker, who we knew we were teenagers together, even much prior teenagers. Great school friends. and to the wonderful director-producer of this video you just saw, my good friend, Rachel Wolfe. It is with sheer delight and great pleasure that I'm honored to introduce our good friend, Professor Yonatan Halevi. Dr. Yonatan, who has served as the Director General of Shaare Zedek Medical Center in Yerushalayim for more than 26 years, is one of the most respected members in the Israeli medical field. And it is due to his true diligence and hard work that our 112-year-old hospital grew into the world-class center of medical excellence it is today. There are many statistics that are the result of Dr. Yonatan's leadership, but two stand out which have been mentioned twice. But since I'm the mom of a pediatrician, and I'm very proud of that because he took my profession, I remember the hospital when it had just 400 beds. That was impressive for Israel. But now, as a previous speaker said, there are 1,000. That's impressive, and indeed world class. The most impressive statistic, however, is that 20 years ago, there were 5,000 births per year, and last year, in 2013, there were over, not 20, but 21,000, more than in any other hospital in the free world. I know that Dr. Yonatan is not personally responsible for this unbelievable jump in birth, but under his leadership, Shaare Zedek has become the hospital of choice for giving birth in Jerusalem. Just yesterday, talking to one of my neighbors about tonight's event, she remarked, "Oh, Gitta, all my grandchildren were born at Shaare Zedek. It is the best care anywhere." To show the respect that our Director General has, the government of Israel has appointed him for a second time the chairman of the Israel's Health Basket Committee. Still don't know what the basket is, but you'll tell me another time. Which meets annually to determine which drugs, medical procedures, and technology will be approved and subsidized by the national health care system. In addition, Israel's Council of Higher Education appointed Dr. Halevi to chair the committee, which 3 years ago decided to approve the new Faculty of Medicine of Bar Ilan University in Sfat in the Galil. Professor Yonatan lectures extensively throughout Israel and the world on topics related to medicine, including quality assurance, medical negligence, and risk management in hospitals as well as in clinics. He is the author of 2 highly acclaimed books, Bedside Manner, which is a must-read for all physicians and lay people. I'm lay, but I couldn't read it, so it has been translated in English now, and Complementary and Alternative Medicine, All the Facts. Professor Halevi attended the Sackler School of Medicine at Tel Aviv University and was a visiting fellow at Yale University of Medicine from 1983 to 1985. Please join me in giving a warm California welcome to Professor Dr. Yonatan Halevi, who will be sharing with us an update of the Shaare Zedek Medical Center in Jerusalem and the hopefully soon to open pediatric hospital within the New Generations building.
Thank you very much, Gitta, for your warm introduction. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like first to address Mayor Villaraigosa, who was a guest in my house for a Friday night meal, and I could sense the warmth towards Israel, towards Jerusalem, towards the causes of the Jewish people. And we really need friends like you, and I wish we had more of them. I mean, you knew about Jewish tradition, and you identified with everything that was going on in Israel. I apologize for my cold. I lost my voice, but I'll try to do my best. And it was a very moving experience to spend an evening at my home with you. And thank you for all your support. I hear from people here in Los Angeles about your love for the community at large, for the Jewish community, and your absolute identification with the Israeli cause. And as an Israeli, I have to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's now around 6 a.m. in Israel. I know that you saw the annual statistics, but to give you an idea about the place that Shaare Zedek fulfills today in Israeli medical life, definitely in Jerusalem medical life, I can only sum up the statistics. We are very advanced in IT, so I can see online everything that is happening in the hospital. So if it's 6 a.m. in Israel now, and 24 hours that ended 6 hours ago, brought to Shaare Zedek 427 patients to its emergency rooms, the adult, the pediatric, and the OBGYN emergency rooms. There were 72 deliveries in the hospital in 24 hours, and 127 surgical procedures, some of them very complex, were performed at the hospital. The people that you saw in the video that Rachel produced so skillfully were people that in my 26-year tenure with the hospital, we tried to bring from all over Israel and from all over the world. I take great pride of the fact that many Israelis who left Israel for fellowships and stayed here, and I will bring 3 examples. The chairman of our cardiothoracic surgery, which I will allude to later on when I mention the central role that Jack Matloff and his family fulfilled in establishing this center. Dr. Danny Bitran was the co-chair of the program for cardiothoracic surgery in University of Massachusetts. And after spending 12 years in this country and not thinking about coming back because senior positions in cardiac surgery in Israel are scarce, I remember that day in September 1992 that I visited him in his house and told him, you served as a paratrooper in the Israeli army. You were compelled to leave the country because you wanted to get the best training in the world, but now it's time to come back. This was over 20 years ago, and he opened our Department of Cardiothoracic Surgery, which is the fruit of the vision of Jack Matloff. And this is the first example of how this community here in Los Angeles is really united and playing a central role in the development of Shaare Zedek Medical Center. And it is so becoming that tonight we honor the second generation Matloff, Stephen Matloff, for his continued support and activity for the hospital following the footsteps of his father Jack and of his mother Martha. And there are many, many other people, many of them present here with us tonight, who played a very central role in the development of the hospital. As I said, you saw in the video guys like Professor Nathan Cherney, who brought 19 years ago modern palliative care to Israel. I believe that the missions of any hospital in the world are first and foremost to save lives, second, to alleviate physical and emotional pain, third, to contribute toward research, and fourth, to train the next generation of physicians and nurses. Shaare Zedek plays a central role in all these 4 missions. Professor Nathan Cherny, whom you saw in the video, brought modern palliative care to Israel. Born in Australia, did his training in Sloan Kettering in this country, and I remember my meeting with him in New York 19 years ago to convince him to come and to serve in Shaare Zedek. And there are many, many more examples. The last of them is Professor Giora Weiss, who was the deputy chairman of interventional cardiology in Columbia Presbyterian. Again, with his wife and 3 daughters, spent 12 years in this country and came to chair the Department of Cardiology in Shaare Zedek only recently in January of this year. Because we became more famous and more branded in Israel, unfortunately, because of the financial crisis of Hadassah, many TV interviews took place in Shaare Zedek this year. When Giora Weiss was asked by the interviewer of Channel 10, how much did you lose in salary when you came from Columbia to Israel? He said, I earned here 1/10 of what I earned back in Columbia. But these Israelis are coming from all over the world back to our country to elevate the level of medicine in Israel at large and in Shaare Zedek in particular. As a live example, this last Thursday, 12,000 interventional cardiologists that convened for their annual convention in Washington were watching a new procedure done in our catheterization laboratory, inserting a new stent in the carotid artery to prevent strokes. So actually, we demonstrate at Shaare Zedek ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, the teaching will come out of Jerusalem, will come out of Israel, and I take great pride of that. But we could not do all this without the help of many of you. And I just look around here and I see the central role that the Los Angeles community played in the life and development of Shaare Zedek Medical Center in Jerusalem. And before naming few of our supporters, I would like to say that I also see Shaare Zedek as a haven for peace. We live through very difficult times now. We had a very difficult summer in Israel, and again, the mayor came to identify with us while we were fighting. I have 14 grandchildren. The oldest of them, Reem, 21 years old, is a soldier in an elite combat unit called Maglan, and he was in the center of Gaza. And I know that both his mother, my oldest daughter, and the grandparents had 50 sleepless nights until he came out. So it was heartwarming to have you there in the middle of this war. But I can also tell you, and I hope that you will all identify with it, that right now when I'm standing before you, there are 4 children from Gaza, civilians, not from Hamas, 4 children from Gaza, 2 that were injured in the war from our bombings, and 2 that needed urgent dialysis, one of them 5 years old, and one of them is 13 years old, who were transported from Gaza to a small community hospital in East Jerusalem who could not cope with these cases. And all 4 cases, all 4 patients are now at Shaare Zedek, in the dialysis unit, in the PICU, the pediatric intensive care unit, and we take great pride of taking care of them. And if you enter our pediatric dialysis unit and you see in one armchair an ultra-Orthodox mother with her child talking Yiddish to him, coming 3 times a week for a dialysis session, because you cannot do a kidney transplantation until the child gets to be 10 kilograms in weight, 22 pounds. A normal baby gets to be 22 pounds when he or she are 12 months old. A patient who is born with kidney disease and he has retardation of development will get to be 22 pounds in weight only when he or she are 3 years old. So for 3 years, this ultra-Orthodox woman comes and spends 4 hours with her kid, with a teacher teaching him in Hebrew or in Yiddish, and in the next armchair, an Israeli Arab from East Jerusalem who is connected with this ultra-Orthodox woman. They are united in the faith that their children, in the cruel fate, that their children both suffer from congenital kidney disease, both taken care of at Shaare Zedek. So the fifth mission of the hospital is really to serve as an arrowhead, as an haven for peace, and I believe that we fulfill this goal too. I take great pride of the fact that my board of directors expects me to balance the operating budget, and we are able to balance the operating budget because Israel has a national health insurance law, and we are so popular among so many patients that we do not need donors' money to pay salaries or to clean the hospital. But all the capital projects that you heard about tonight and that you saw in the video would not be possible without the generosity of friends from all over the world. And I would like to acknowledge the presence here today of people who endowed major projects in Shaare Zedek. I will start with Gitta and Nagel, who are longtime supporters, and endowed the floor, the inpatient floor of our new children's hospital to be inaugurated in few months. Luke Kestenbaum and his late wife Trudy of blessed memory. The entrance floor to the hospital is named for Trudy. When you enter Shaare Zedek, I knew Trudy and I know how beloved she was in this community. When you enter the entrance floor of the hospital, you will see a big picture of Trudy, and that's her floor. Tzvi and Betty Reisman joined the supporters of Shaare Zedek only a year ago, but I know that Tzvi, who became a friend, may I consider you a friend, Tzvi, actually gets phone calls because they endowed the intensive care unit in the hospital, and the intensive care unit actually takes care of the most difficult cases. And I know of patients who saw your name there, Betty and Tzvi, and wrote you letters. So we would not be able really to develop, to buy equipment for our intensive care unit without your help, and we thank you for that. Margaret Feder and her late husband Paul are longtime supporters of Shaare Zedek. Many, many projects in the new children's hospital and in the old building were endowed by the Feders, and thank you for that. Lee Sampson and his late wife Anne supported us with equipment for our new gastroenterology unit, which is a leading unit in Israel. Stanley Black and his late wife Joyce are longtime supporters, and you mentioned, Stanley, the underground operation theater that you just endowed recently. And last but not least, again, I would like to go back to the Matloff family. Israel in the early 90s, and I know that Americans cannot understand that, but the British can. People were dying while waiting for a cardiac procedure in the early 90s in Israel. By cardiac procedure, I mean an angioplasty to open a blocked coronary artery in the cath lab, or open heart surgery, coronary artery bypass surgery. The waiting lists in the early 90s were very long. They are long in London till today, but they are not long anymore in Israel, because it was the vision of Jack Matloff, who was one of the founders of modern cardiothoracic surgery and ran the department here in Cedar Sinai for decades, and actually founded modern cardiac surgery in the city of Los Angeles. And he had the vision that Shaare Zedek needs a world-class cardiothoracic surgery department. I think the first dinner to raise funds for this took place in this city in the early 80s. And we inaugurated the department in 1994. And today, 20 years later, it's a leading department that broadcasts innovations in interventional cardiology and cardiothoracic surgery all over the world. And the rabbi was talking about listening to dreams. We listened to the dreams of Jack Matloff, and the lives of tens of thousands of patients were saved thanks to these dreams and thanks to the fact that we listened to these dreams. So I thank all of you for being here today, for supporting Shaare Zedek, and invite all of you when you are in Israel to visit us. Shana Tova.
Say to me what you really mean. I won't ever give you reason to lie. See into me, what I am is in my eyes, and I'm willing to believe the same in you. I think I'm ready now. I'm only learning how. Is there anyone around who has a plan? I'm not a lonely man. There are those who think I am, but I'd rather be alone until I'm standing by a friend. By a friend I've known no limits. By a friend I've known all my life. To you, friend, I say, let us go outside and play in the laughter, in the rain, in the sunlight, in the pain. Everyone I've ever known needs a friend, a one hand in a hand, every woman and man. You wanna make a good friend, do it now. Brother, why wait around? Sister, don't let me down. 'Cause you passed right by a friend, and they might never come again. Yeah. Oh, don't you know me? What I really mean? Is there something here that you can understand? I am not afraid, oh, to open up my hand, and I stretch it out to see if it's taken by a friend, by a friend I've known only minutes, by a friend I've known all my life. To you, friend, I say, let us go outside and play in the laughter, in the rain, in the sunlight, in the pain, in the laughter, in the rain, in the sunlight, in the pain.
That was a beautiful song. I want to find out who sang that. It's a beautiful video, Paul. First of all, I'm Sephardic, so there are no coincidences. I'm really happy we got 2 stories for the price of 1. We really needed to hear that other story as well, because it spoke to what we needed to hear tonight. A few minutes ago, when I introduced the new chair of the region's Campaign Advisory Council, Barak Raviv, I spoke about the new generation and how people in their 20s and 30s are taking up the mantle for the new generation and to do the causes that we need and the dreams fulfilled, like David Wolpe said earlier. So the person I'm going to introduce now is someone that fits exactly in that category. And you know, when you run a Jewish paper, you get to know who's the buzz in the city. And you get to know which organizations really make a mark. And I got to tell you, in the past 10 years, there are very few organizations that have entered our community and made as much of a buzz as 30 years after. They took this community of the Persian Jews in LA and really rallied them. And it's remarkable how in only a few years they've been able to accomplish so much. And most of that is due to the work of my friend Sam Yebri, who graduated from Yale and USC Law School, who now has his own law firm, who doesn't sleep much, and he's a real treasure. We're very happy, Sam, that you are part of our community, and please come up and say a few words.
Thank you so much, David. What a night. Am I right? This has been a night filled with wisdom from Rabbi Wolpe and insight from Professor Halevi and really kind of heartwarming remarks from Steve Matloff about his father. And this program really came together and because of one man, actually one force, Paul Jesser. He deserves an incredible amount of credit for being really the heart and the muscle behind the Western region of American Committee of Shaare Zedek. So I have the deep privilege of introducing our mayor. It's not the mayor, it's our mayor. I was pleased when I was first asked to speak to the mayor and ask him to accept being honored by the Western region of the American Committee for Shaare Zedek Medical Center in Jerusalem for his unwavering friendship to the Jewish people and support of Israel. I was even more pleased when I was asked to accompany him on his 4th trip to Israel just 3 months ago. Little did I know that I would have the deep honor of joining the mayor and sitting in the Prime Minister's office with the mayor and with Paul Jesser and Kimberly Honig for a 1-hour briefing with Prime Minister Netanyahu. For context, this was the day that the Iraqi city of Mosul fell to ISIS, an organization that many of us had not heard of at the time. And I'm not sharing any news. Prime Minister Netanyahu gave us his insights of what would happen, and sadly, he was 100% correct. Little did we know that while we're having that meeting, just a few miles away, Eyal Yifrach, Gilad Shar, Naftali Frankel of blessed memory were being kidnapped by Hamas terrorists just that very day. Traveling with the mayor to Israel during these events was an experience I'll never forget. Having the opportunity to witness his insightful and thoughtful questions, his personal reactions, and his deep affinity for Israel was moving, but it was not surprising. Mayor Villaraigosa has been to Israel 4 times. How many other big city mayors have been to Israel that often? In fact, in January 2009, he organized and led a solidarity mission to Sderot and rallied the Los Angeles political community to go show our city's support of that embattled city during that difficult time when rockets were raining on Sderot on a daily basis. Recently, after he returned from our trip, he sat down and wrote a powerful op-ed piece. We've heard about a few times about the final sentence, but the rest of the op-ed piece is something that we should all read. It's in our packets that were handed when you walked in. It's a powerful piece that anyone who cares about the Middle East should read and study. And I want to read a few lines from that piece. The mayor wrote, "One of the most moving aspects of my visit to Israel was a tour of Shaare Zedek Medical Center in Jerusalem. Here in this hospital, which gives a world-class medical treatment to all the citizens of Jerusalem, and despite the communal strife surrounding it in the region, I was taken by the fact that it houses only one family, patients and medical personnel, both belonging to all religions and cultures. It is difficult to understand why Israel's neighbors, the Palestinians and the broader Arab world, feel such deep hostility towards it. Rather than emulating Israel's tolerance as they should, they attack and vilify it." He concluded, we need to support Israel in any way we can as it contends with increasingly empowered terrorist elements seeking its demise. This is in the national interest of the United States and is also the only decent thing to do. Mr. Mayor, I want to thank you for your friendship, for your support, for being a true mensch. I would like to ask Professor Halevi and Mr. Ratzker to join me in presenting this award, please. Mr. Mayor, please join us as well. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, it is truly an honor to present you this small token and symbol of our love, our appreciation, our admiration, and respect for you. This is a piece of art drawn by Mordechai Rosenstein, and it says in Hebrew and in English, Dor ledor, generation to generation. Mr. Mayor, from the bottom of all of our hearts, thank you.
First of all, let me say what an honor it is to be here on the Bima. And let me acknowledge, of course, one of my faith leaders, Rabbi David Wolpe, not because he's known as one of the most significant rabbis. I heard someone say the most important rabbi in the nation, but because of his wise and sage sermons over the years, his friendship, someone who I look to as a faith leader, and it is indeed an honor to be here. You know, you shared that story, and it's true, I was here on Kol Nidra, and out of respect for the holiest of days, I was in the back and not seeking to be introduced, although I was asked numerous times if I wanted to be introduced. I've been rewarded since then, because every time I come, I get to come on the Bima and speak, no matter what day it is, and I do want to acknowledge and thank him. Let me also thank David for your very kind words, for your columns, for a newspaper that I have a deep affection for. You know, during a very tough time in my mayoralty, frankly, because of my own actions and failures, the Los Angeles Magazine did a front cover that said, failure. The article wasn't actually that bad. It said, don't run for governor, stay here as mayor, but it was a pretty stinging rebuke of me. And it was a very dark time for me. And 2 weeks later, my friends at the Jewish Journal did a beautiful front page that said, success. And it was probably somewhere in between, particularly at that time, but I've always had a close relationship and deep respect for the Jewish Journal. And as I said to some people, you know, nobody reads Los Angeles Magazine, and the people I care about read the Jewish Journal. So thank you. And to Paul Jesser, let me say to the folks from Shaare Zedek, how lucky you are to have this force of nature. I have fallen in love with Paul Jesser, and I have because, not just because he works so hard for you and this great hospital, but because he loves Israel and the Jewish people, the Jewish state, and he's just a wonderful friend in this short time. And I get all his emails, and we all get his emails, and I read every one of them. But importantly, I want to thank you for, I know that this, in no small part, was your idea, and I thank you for that. And to Sam, thank you for that beautiful introduction. You are a young leader who we will continue to hear from for a very, very long time. And we had one of those trips that we'll always remember. It was a beautiful trip. And, you know, the first time I went to Israel, I felt like I was on Aliyah. I did. And I did in no small part for the same reason that Stephen talks so passionately and eloquently about his father. And let me acknowledge Stephen Matloff and his family. You deserve this recognition much more than I. You have been involved with Shaare Zedek your entire life, and your family has dedicated their life to this great hospital. And like you and your love for Mom, and next time introduce her first and me third. My love for Israel stems from my love for my mom. And we grew up in Bow Heights, as some of you know. My little brother Rob, who's here today, I say little brother because he'll always be my little brother, but He was actually at a Jewish preschool, a Jewish co-op. My family was lived with and was affected greatly by Jews during that time. My mother taught us about the Holocaust and Jim Crow and the Japanese relocation camps. And I've often said that as a young boy, the people who extended a hand, the strangers who extended a hand of friendship to me were Jews. And that experience has been a part of me ever since. And I want to acknowledge my family, my brother Rob, who's here today, my daughter Priscilla, my daughter Maricela, my grandson, who I believe is here, Andres, my niece, Denise, and my nephew, Isaac. Why don't you stand up wherever you are? And of course, my son, Antonio. I didn't forget you. Because I said I felt like I was doing Aliyah. After that first visit as speaker, oh, my sister Mary Lou is here as well. I'm sorry I didn't see you. Judge, my sister is a Superior Court judge who's here with us today as well. I felt like I was doing Aliyah. I felt a connection to my mom that first time in 1998. I went as speaker. I went with the Jewish Federation. It was actually 97. We were celebrating the 50th anniversary. And I swore then that I would bring my family. And it's the second time I went with the mother of two of my children and my ex-wife, Karina. And then the third time I went, I said, you know, I absolutely have to bring my kids. You know, you saw me at the wall. I don't know if I think that was my third trip. But every time I go, I feel this connection to the wall. And my kids went with me the third time. And I just want to thank the Nagels for taking me on what was, without question, the most important time I've been able to go. And the reason is, as was mentioned, I was there when the 3 boys were kidnapped. I was there during a time of peace when war seemed so far away. And you gave me that opportunity to visit Shaare Zedek, to go to the places I've been to often, but not enough. And I thank you both for that. Let's give the Nagels a big hand. You know, when I think of Shaare Zedek, like Dr. Jonathan Halevi, I think of the images of this hospital of the heart. A hospital that's been around for 100 years, 1902, when the first Zionist pioneers were coming to what they called Palestine at the time, and we now know as Israel. There at the end of the Jaffa Road. And what comes to mind was a poem I once read that I gave to my kid's mom, and it said, "What is as important as knowledge asks the mind, caring and seeing with a heart answered the soul." You know, there were people that were invited who didn't come today. And some of them said they didn't come because of the events, the war that we just went through a few short weeks ago. And I said to them, you know, I don't think you understand. We're celebrating a hospital that about 38% of the patients they treat are Palestinian or Arab. We're celebrating a hospital that doesn't distinguish, in a country that doesn't distinguish between Arab or Jew. I saw firsthand in the nephrology unit or department those Arab women, the ultra-Orthodox families that were there side by side, praying with, supporting their children. I went to the neonatal unit where I saw Arab and Jewish children. I saw doctors and nurses and hospital personnel, both Jewish and Arab, who treated these children because they were sick, who treated the people at this hospital because they needed medical help. And that was a powerful symbol of what, to me, is at the heart of this conflict, but also at the heart of why we support this hospital today. We all know, let's not fool ourselves, there's not a hospital like that on the other side, in that neighborhood, that would treat all kids in the way that Shaare Zedek does. We know that to be true. Shaare Zedek is different. Israel is different. And so I am honored to be acknowledged by you. I said to the Matloff family, I don't deserve it, but I am thankful. Thankful that I had an opportunity to reaffirm what I already knew. That the Jewish state, the Jewish people are humane, are good. And for me, that was enough as far as the honor. I want to end with a story about a woman who I referred to earlier, my mom. My mom in the 1950s had Jews, blacks, Gentiles of European heritage, Latinos, Asians, and looking back, even a gay couple at home for dinner. My mother, to those who have said that I do some of the things that I do because of politics or ideology, my mother instilled in her kids this notion of righteousness, this idea of right and wrong, this notion of our common humanity. Those values that my mother gave me, I think, are the values that represent why Shaare Zedek is so important. They're the values that say that in these hospital walls, we will treat all of the people who come inside as human beings, as good. How better to think about why we're all here today, here at Sinai Temple, to honor a hospital, to honor families who have been so supportive of that hospital and the work that they do. Thank you very much.
Paul Jesser invited me to say a few words before we do the prayer for Israel. And if you'd like, everybody can sit down and comment on what the mayor said. So I'd like to take a number that he said, the number 1902. The year, how old the Shaare Zedek is compared to how old Israel is. We always talk about the Arab Spring, and how come the Arab Spring failed? It's one of the big questions that people have trouble understanding. And Mr. Mayor, you spoke about how old this hospital is. And when you see how old Israel is, you ask yourself, how come there's a 36-year difference? How could this hospital be 36 years older than Israel? And in that number, 36, lies one of the great insights of the Middle East. 46, 36, he must be Ashkenazi. I'm Sephardic, we round out. Yeah, we don't care, it's a detail. Okay. It's what I call the Zionist Spring. When people talk about why did the Arab Spring fail, is because democracy starts with institutions. The democracy of Israel started decades and decades, 46 years before the actual arrival of Israel. When the Technion came in the 20s, and when your great hospital, Shaare Zedek, the system of the economy, of the academics, the legal system, Israel was built from the ground up, before the grand gesture of the United Nations. And this is the real secret to Israel, is that we build it from the ground up. So that's my comment on your beautiful words, Mr. Mayor. So when you say it's the only decent thing to do, is to respect Israel and to love Israel, you had the courage to say the word, Israel is different. You had the courage to say that, because we live in a world where people don't say that. We're not allowed to say that. And it is different. And the reason it is different is because of hospitals that started decades, 46 years before Israel started. And we're celebrating that tonight in the grand tradition of American democracy and the great democratic ideals. Before I introduce a special presentation of the prayer for the state of Israel, I want to recognize a few people tonight. First, I can never look at Max Webb and not recognize Max Webb. He's one of my close friends. I adore Max Webb. I go to Cantor Sunday morning just to hang out with Max Webb and Stanley Black. It's like a Woody Allen movie. I highly recommend it. David and Ron Nagel from Pico Robertson, my hood. It's great to have you here. The Director General of World Art, Shmuel Siso. The District Director for Congress in Berman, Scott Abrams, if everybody can please stand up, whoever I'm now announcing. LA Council Member Bob Blumenthal, Supervisor Zev Yaroslavsky, Assembly Member Richard Bloom, LA City Controller Ron Galperin, Deputy City Controller Susie Jack, former Assembly Member Wally Knox, and all of you for coming tonight. We arrive now at that magical moment, the crescendo, when we pray one of the most beautiful prayers in the Jewish liturgy is the prayer for the state of Israel. It's my privilege to invite my good friend Lou Kestenbaum. Lou, please come up. His daughter, Rini Peters, granddaughter, Shauna, Cantor's Marcus Feldman from Sinai Temple, my friend Natan Baram from Young Israel of North Beverly Hills, accompanied by Ariel Cohen, to share this beautiful, extraordinary prayer with you. And following the prayer, Cantor's Marcus and Baram will present a medley of Israeli songs for peace.
Well, thank you for this wonderful honor. And I'm pleased that my father, Lou Kestenbaum, and my daughter, Shauna Kestenbaum, standing here with me. Our Father in heaven, Rock and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, the first manifestation of the approach of our redemption. Shield it with your loving kindness, envelop it in your peace, bestow your light and truth upon its leaders, ministers, and advisors, and grace them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land, grant them deliverance, and adorn them in a mantle of victory. Ordain peace in the land, and grant its inhabitants eternal happiness. Lead them swiftly and upright to your city, Zion, and to Jerusalem, the abode of your name, as is written in the Torah of your servant Moses. Even if your outcasts are at the ends of the earth, from there the Lord your God will gather you, from there he will fetch you. And the Lord your God will bring you to the land that your fathers possessed, and you shall possess it. And he will make you more prosperous and more numerous than your fathers. Draw our hearts together to revere and venerate your name, and to observe all the precepts of your Torah, and send us quickly the Messiah, agent of your vindication, to redeem those who await your deliverance. Manifest yourself in the splendor of your boldness before the eyes of all inhabitants of your world, and may everyone endowed with a soul affirm that the Lord, God of Israel, is king and his dominion is absolute. Amen forevermore.
We ask you to please rise.
And sing with us as well.
Avinu,
את ידי מגיני ארץ קודשנו ושמחת עולם ליושביה. אבינו, אבינו, שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו. אבינו, אבינו, שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו. צור ישראל וגואלו.
So Cantor Baram and I have prepared a short medley of songs that remind us of the love of Israel and of the peace that we hope of and dream for every single day. And if you hear something that you recognize, we do invite you to please sing along.
ישירו כולם במילה אחת בודדה, הלב מלא בהמון תודה, ועולם גם הוא איזה עולם נפלא. הללויה על הכל, הללויה מחר ואתמול, הללויה ותלויה ביד ביד, השירו מלך ישראל חי, עם ישראל, עם ישראל, עם ישראל חי, עם ישראל, עם ישראל, עם ישראל חי, עוד אבינו חי, עוד אבינו חי, עוד אבינו, עוד אבינו, עוד אבינו חי, עוד אבינו חי, עוד אבינו חי, עוד אבינו, עוד אבינו, עוד אבינו
We're going to close it right now. And I want to thank the mayor because you set the theme for tonight without knowing it. By that, using that phrase, the only decent thing to do was to support a country like Israel. And you completely understand that, and that's the theme for tonight. And we want to thank you for that as well. And to close our program, remember, there's still dessert. And you can, Jews love to schmooze. So there's still another schmooze opportunity. But to close our program, just for a minute, please join me in welcoming the American Committee's Chief Operating Officer, straight from New York, Rachel Wolfe.
So it's always a great role to be the single person separating an audience from dessert. So I'm going to follow the 3 rules of speaking, the 3 B's, which is be short, be concise, and be seated. So first, I'd like to once again congratulate our honorees, Villaraigosa, and to our good friend Steve Matloff. It's been a true privilege to honor you here tonight. I'd like to thank Terry Storch, who I don't know if you're still here. Many of you have seen the knitted clothing that she has done, created for our children in the NICU. We want to thank her for all of her efforts. I want to, of course, thank, as everyone has called him, the Force, Paul Jesser, the amazing Paul Jesser, but of course his team behind him of Jennifer Weinstein, Rona Bergman, Shelley Levy, and all the amazing volunteers. Of course, our honorary chairs, my very good friends, Gitta and Jack Nagel. Thank you so much for all you do, and to so many of you who are here. I want to thank our Director General who flew in, Professor Yonatan Halevi, and my colleague, Kiva Holzer. And I, of course, want to thank my friend, the chairman of our board, and my mentor, Menno Ratzker, and his wife, Helen, for joining us here this evening. I could go on and on about the hospital. I just want to leave you with one idea. And it's from the Torah portion of Kitisa, which we read last week. The reading begins with God instructing Moshe to take a census of the Jews by taking a half shekel from each one of them. This half shekel donation was eventually used to purchase sacrifices for atonement. The verse says, V'natnu ish kfar nafsho, every man shall give his atonement. If you look at the word v'natnu, you will see that it is a palindrome. That means from right to left and left to right, the word is spelled the same. And I think there is a great message for us in this. Giving charity, and especially giving to our hospital in Israel, is a mutually beneficial enterprise. When you give, the feeling that you get, the reward you get, the good that you feel for what you've done is returned tenfold. For those of you who've been involved with Shaare Zedek for years through contributing your time, your resources, or your expertise, you know what that is like. You experienced what being a part of the Shaare Zedek family means. I welcome those of you who are new to Shaare Zedek to come visit us in Jerusalem and see for yourself what a special place this is to support. I guarantee that you will find that giving feels a lot like receiving in return. I thank you all so much for joining us tonight, and I welcome you to our reception downstairs. Thank you so much. Good evening.